everybody. Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 211. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him... He's sitting here on a Monday, once again, victorious Austin, Texas, coming off the 1-0 road victory over St. Louis City SC. Again, I think I know the answer to this question, but I will ask you as I always do. How you feeling, my friend?
Absolutely ecstatic, man. Check those boys off the list. Got them out of here. So hype about it, man. What a win. I hate those dudes. If you listen to the last episode, you know how much I hate St. Louis. Probably my least favorite team outside of the two Texas teams here. So to go up there, get those important 3 points. Take a look at that table. Look how sexy that table's looking. You look at the entire table. It's looking real sexy. Checked in on the old MLS Cup odds for Austin up to plus 3,000. So we got them locked in plus 7,500. So
we got some value there.
We've been chatting, three wins in a row here and talking about the levels of annoying that you and I could potentially reach coming up here once we get through April. But we'll cross that bridge later on. I am doing fantastic, ready to get into this game.
Yeah, don't want to look too far ahead. I think we'll do some of that on Thursday's episode, previewing the Portland match. Maybe we can kind of look ahead just to the month of April as a whole. Calendar flips to April tomorrow on Tuesday. So closing out the month of March here with a win. We'll recap that victory over St. Louis City SC. We will recap Austin FC 2's PK shootout loss at St. Louis City 2. Little rain delayed there, of course, affected by the first team's match. Have a little Nonsense Academy update as well to close out this episode. But before we get into all of that, just want to remind you all listening or watching on our YouTube channel that the best way to support the show, and you can support us financially by downloading the audio versions of all of our episodes. And wherever you get your podcast, usually there's a little toggle switch. You can toggle on auto downloads. That way you can support the North End Podcast going forward, and you don't have to think about it further. You can go the extra mile. Rate and review the show wherever you get your podcast. And if you are watching on our YouTube channel, the best thing to grow the show here is to hit that subscribe button, but you can also hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, here on episode 211, hit the thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords because, like Myrto Uzuni, they see everything. Wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. Really just one piece of news between our Thursday episode, right? The late preview with this kind of wacky schedule we've had over the last couple weeks. And that piece of news was that Riley Thomas, unsurprisingly, gets another short-term agreement, another call up here ahead of the St. Louis match. That's his third of a possible 4 on the season. So outside of just noting that he was up with the first team again here this weekend, I started to think to myself when I saw this last Friday, I think in the month of April, we're probably going to see Riley get a supplemental deal here with the first team because we can, if we call him up against Portland this coming week, and I think we will with Dessler expected to miss at least another month, then we're out of these agreements. So similar to how Jimmy got his first team deal last year, I think we see Riley take up one of those spots just because we need the body. Any thoughts for you there? Again, obviously we haven't seen him in action officially with the first team outside of preseason, but I think that's what we're going to see, and it'll play out one way or another, right? It's either going to be Riley getting that deal or another FCTO player getting called up, because again, I don't think we're leaving an empty spot on the bench, as our opponents did on Sunday.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I don't think that was part of the original plan for Riley's first year here, but we've had to make adjustments with this Dessler injury. No, we're going to be without his services for the next month, like you said. The only other scenario I could see is potentially Gomez. We've seen him play some right back a little bit here and there. That's the only other thing I can actually think of. Or if we're looking at, some sort of signing, we speculated on getting some more center back help as well. Maybe we've been looking at a position to a player to help fill that positional need with Dessler missing some time here. But as you said, it will play out as it does.
Yeah, it's a good call. Could be Gomez. Could certainly be like an MLS veteran, kind of a guy that we've been waiting on. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Obviously, if something changes with the status there with Riley or the right back position, we will discuss it here on the pod. So Nico did say in that Friday media availability that everybody outside of Dessler was ready to go. So everybody coming back from international duty, that included Jimmy Farcarlin, right? Coming back, carried off on a stretcher. We had no idea what happened. He's good to go. Starts for FCito last night. But then we get the lineup on Sunday. And look, you can't win them all. I believe my direct quote was, "You're not benching the captain." Well, guess what? Ilie Sanchez does retreat to the bench for this one. So you had Myrto Uzuni jumping back in for Diego Rubio and Osman Bukari out there in place of Ilie, which left, of course, backline, or I guess also notable, Svatok came back from Ukraine international duty and got the start over Julio. And like, some of that potentially is Julio's maybe not 90 minutes fit yet, or because Svatok is, we're letting Julio get, fully back to 100%. But also because this is another game that Austin did not have a ton of the ball. So we've talked about, right? Svatok maybe makes a little bit more sense when that is the expectation from the coaching staff. So Svatok in there next to BHI wearing the armband with no Ilie, Biru, and Johnny G on the flanks at the fullback positions. Midfield, Sabovic and Danny with Owen in front of them. And then, I thought we were going to see two wingers here. We really played with just Buka. And then when we had the ball, Biru was flying up that left side as he loves to do, and kind of playing a makeshift left winger, just occupying that space. Obviously, Uzuni and BV up top. So what were your thoughts on the lineup? I think the biggest surprise to me was no Ilie.
Yeah, I was fine with it. The Ilie, I don't want to say benching, but not being in the starting 11
right.
there was somewhat of an eye-opener, but I wasn't too concerned with it. We're talking to the VP boys before that game, and Ilie's 34. He could just need a bit of rotation. He could have picked up some sort of smaller knock in practice here, what have you. But I was totally fine with it. We've seen some better play from Pep as of late, and I think that he continued that positive momentum last night versus St. Louis. So I was confident in the lineup that we had. Svatok, Julio, I think you were maybe a little too premature on Julio being ready for a full starting gig, potentially 60 minutes. So that to me just signals that he's not exactly where we need him to be. But to your point, not having the ball as much as we anticipated, I think, when we were previewing this match, that we thought that they were really going to bunker. And then you see that St. Louis lineup to start the game, and they were like, holy shit, yeah, they're definitely playing defensively here, and they're going to let us have the ball, which I think, this game was a bit weird. You look at the first and the second half stats, which we'll get into, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but this game really does a complete 180 from the first to the second half in regard to how St. Louis was playing and how we had to adjust and adapt to the way that they were playing. So again, we know that Nico not only has the confidence to change these lineups, but he has the availability of bodies to change these lineups, which is something that we have not had the privilege of being able to do for a long, long period of time here in Austin.
Yeah. And what's crazy too is, again, we talked about it a couple weeks ago with the Leo sale, but the flexibility that Rodo still has and how much better this team could actually look heading into the stretch run. But again, getting off topic here. And I was damn sure that Julio was going to be ready to go 92 weeks ago. Here we are getting into April, waiting to get that start. And then on their lineup too, man, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's 6 defenders, 2 D mids, it's kind of 5-3-2 or 5-2-1-2 defensively. It's really weird, really defensive to come out. That Kyle Hebert, right? I believe he's a true center back, and he was kind of playing on the right wing when they had the ball. But certainly far from the most talented lineup that St. Louis could roll out there, because this is something we did not have, I don't think, on the Thursday episode that came out on their injury report, that Cedric Teuchert was questionable coming in. We may have mentioned that he had a knock coming off, but either way, he ends up missing this match. So again, you take another one of the guys kind of off the top tier. When we look at those roster profiles, right? Those guys that are color coded for DP and U22 and TAM, like they were missing a whole handful of their top guys. But hey, you can only play who's in front of you.
Look, man, exactly. You know, they were banged up. We've been banged up. Every team gets banged up. You got to play who you're playing, and we were able to get the job done. So I have no complaints. And I mean, Leuven didn't get hurt. I don't know what to say. He wasn't hurt. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, sucks to suck, dude.
Yeah, I think you said don't be an idiot on Thursday's episode. And that's something we try to live by, you know, sometimes unsuccessfully here in the North End. But getting into this one, I did note before I took any notes on the match on the rewatch, and I saw this live, and I thought it was notable. An early afternoon kickoff in a road match. St. Louis supporters had no trouble filling out either their supporter section or the stadium as a whole. Los Angeles. And look, LAFC fans not in the best light again here this morning with some of those videos that have been going around. So shout out to St. Louis and their supporters for this one. I think we kind of want to mirror our fan base a little bit more like that than what we've seen out of the 3-2-5-2 this season. But we can pick that conversation up when we see those guys again, I guess.
We must be in second place. This dude's taking all kinds of shots right now. I told y'all we were approaching levels of annoyance that are gonna be biblical. You know, like if we keep this rate up, let's keep punching down at LAFC right now.
Punching down on the orange team too. Fucking God. Houston, terrible.
Oh man.
All right, let's talk about Austin here in the 5th minute. This is really the only opportunity in the first 10 or 12 minutes of this match where Austin actually even has the ball. We've got all 3 designated players running in transition after a St. Louis turnover, and Uzuni carries the ball into the final third and loses his footing, just slips, able to retain possession and then slide it out to Bukhari. And Bukhari breaks his man down towards the end line and has a crack, but that effort goes into the side netting. 7th minute, you get a Bukhari handball kind of on the far side of the Austin penalty area from the broadcast camera. And off that free kick, Stuver punches that one out for a corner. Nothing doing on that corner, but kind of as I talked about a second ago, we just were not on the front foot to begin this one. It was not how I expected the match to begin. But even though St. Louis spent the majority of this first 10 or 12 minutes in and around our penalty area, there was nothing super threatening coming out of it. So even on the, I felt worse about it in real time than on the rewatch. And that tends to happen when you win, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I'll start with the Buka look. Fine with it. Enjoyed it. A good look. Sign of things to come. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because he displayed that. He has that ability to break you down one-on-one, which we understand. I thought it was a solid attempt. Sign of good things to come later on in this matchup here. But yes, very interesting how this game started with them on the front foot and really creating some chances. I don't want to say they were good chances, but they were some chances. And, that kind of anticipation and trying to figure out this game, what it's going to look like. We saw the lineup from St. Louis, and as we noted before, very defensive, but able to come out here and get something in our territory early to start. But I thought we responded really well. And then you see a dynamic shift in this game in the way that St. Louis was playing.
Yeah, and I mentioned that kind of 10 to 12 minutes because in the 12th minute, you get Sabovic and Durkin colliding, and they call a foul on Durkin, I think rightfully so. But both those guys bonk heads. They're down for a few minutes. It looked like Bissard kind of got the worst of the 2 guys there in that collision. But during this stoppage, I think it really allowed Austin to kind of get a little bit of a reset, catch their breath. And watching it live, what really stood out to me is the amount of communication that you could see on the broadcast between the Austin players on the pitch. And I thought it was a pretty significant difference between the 2 teams during this stoppage. And you see the momentum turn right around after we get restarted. And I think also a little bit lucky that Sabo didn't have to come off because he did take a little bit of a knock to the side of the dome there.
He's a tough SOB for sure, as he displays throughout the course of this game here. But I think that was a great point you there with the communication. I would like to highlight not just the difference between us and St. Louis, but the difference between this iteration of Austin FC and prior iterations of Austin FC. You don't get the Ilya start, like you said, our captain. You didn't expect him to be benched, but he's been super great with communication, I feel like. And I think that has trickled down to a lot of guys, and we're playing as a team and a unit.
28th minute here. Austin, in my notes, through my Verde tinted lenses, has completely taken over control of the pace in this match by the middle of the first half. And Vasquez plays Buka on his right side here. And Buka also slips. Like, I don't think this was like their pitch looks very, very nice. I think it was because it was raining before the match. And then, of course, we do eventually get the weather delay. So I would blame that more on the weather rather than, like San Jose last year, right? Where that pitch was just in terrible condition. But so Buka also able to keep possession here after slipping, and he drops it back to Gallagher as the St. Louis double team kind of, when he slipped, double team was allowed to catch up because, again, Buka, we'll get to the assist, but I thought he played really, really well again yesterday in terms of creating the opportunities for himself and his teammates. So Gallagher, as the ball's dropped back to him, he lofts it into the mixer, and it kind of gets pinged around. Nobody has control of it, but that loose ball finds Owen, and he has a hit from 12, 14 yards. It gets deflected out for a corner. Nothing comes of that corner. But again, this is where Austin started to settle in and really take control of this match and look like the aggressors that we thought they should be.
Yep, we're starting to get into space here. The game is picking up, the pace is picking up, and that's where we're going to thrive eventually with those three DPs out there. We're going to be great in those types of game situations.
Yeah, and you see a little glimpse of it here in the 34th because Stuver playing it out of the back finds Owen Wolf near midfield. Owen turns and charges into space before again laying it off to Osman's side. And you saw at halftime the graphics of the areas of attack for Austin, right? Whether it's the left or right wing or the left or right channel in the middle of the park. It was like majority right wing. So really playing it up that right side to Buka, go sprint and get onto it and make something happen. And here he loses his defender very, very easily. Again, makes it look a lot easier than it is, I think, in this instance. But once he loses that first defender, he's in the middle of four St. Louis players as he picks his head up, plays it to the foot of Myrto Uzuni, who touches it home for the opening goal. And upon the replay, and you have to look at a very specific angle, you got to be behind the net, I think, to really see this deflection. And so there's an element of luck in this deflection still finding the back of the net. I think it was going in if it didn't take that deflection anyways. Maybe not. Lund was, in the area. It wasn't like he had bad positioning there, but ultimately goes in the net, 1-0 lead. And I think the play up until the deflection is a glimpse of what we think this can look like more often or with higher frequency in terms of finishing it off with that final action. It was a very quick boom, boom, right up the middle, out to Buka, DP to DP connection. You love to see it, and we got the lead.
Absolutely. Direct attack. Fantastic play by Buka. Way to get his head up here, find Uzuni. We owed these MFs a thigh shot, so we'll take it. You had to point out to me that, that got deflected. I did not see that on the original broadcast. Went back, was able to catch it there. But fantastic display by both of these guys. Clearly getting a bit of a better feeling for one another. Myrto, we keep seeing this with him where he's finding the right space to get to. You get good service here. And when you get that ball in that area with that type of player, good things are going to happen more often than not.
Yeah, just 2 minutes later, it was the next possession, I think. Austin goes right back to work on the ball because as we progress through this match, Austin does, especially in the second half, right? We see them kind of flip the switch and just go completely defensive. But it did not happen right after the goal. To me, this was not we scored and we started to bunker. I thought we played the rest of this first half fairly aggressively, and we probably should have had a second here because we have great pass by Danny. And I think both on the rewatch and then in the stats, you see that Danny had a very, very effective game, but it wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy, but I thought he was very, very solid. And I think he's been solid over the last two matches. Again, not going to stand out in the highlights. He's not going to get the team of the match day for these performances, but he's putting in the work. And the results that have shown over the last 2 weeks are kind of exactly what we need out of him. And he's being that connector, right? Instead of trying to do extra work on the offensive end, we got guys for that, man. I think he's more in his element, whether he likes it or not, or whether some fans like it or not. I think he's more in his element, kind of playing next to a Savovich or an Ilya and being that connector rather than a creator.
Look, we gave Danny some flack, rightfully so, I believe, for some poor mental errors that he had earlier in this season, but he has been incredibly solid in these last 2 games here, and I'm glad that you brought him up because I definitely wanted to focus on him. He's been under the microscope quite a bit, has been for some time, and as I mentioned on, I don't know if it was the last episode or when we were recapping San Diego, I said I thought maybe because like we've been trying to find this key for this door to kind of unlock him on the offensive side. And to your point, Savovich and Ilya might be those 2 guys that allow him to play a bit more freely because we know he's a defensive-minded player and he wants to track back. He wants to get physical with guys and get some tackles. But when you have Savovich, who I also want to say a fantastic performance from him. Yeah. He is a stud. Like he's a very, very good player. And I think probably after Owen has been one of the brightest spots for this team to start this season because he's not only physical, great on the defensive side of the ball, but he can distribute. You see this incredibly sexy back heel from him coming up here with this attempt from BV. But I love what Danny's been doing as of late, and I hope that he can keep this thing moving forward because, we thought maybe his focus, his mentals, his chickens, as Marshawn Lynch would say, weren't in the right space here. But he has changed that. So huge shout out to him.
Yeah, and that's like I got us off on this tangent because Danny makes the pass into Bessard for this little back heel flick that's super cheeky and slick. And then credit to Brandon Vasquez too, because the turn that Vasquez makes receiving this flick from Savovich, I don't know if he may have even surprised himself with the turn and then deking around that defender in the space that he did have to rocket this curling shot towards Lund. And credit to Lund, like I thought he didn't face a ton. Those are our 2 shots on goal that we just talked about in a 3-minute span here. And Lund parries it away. Probably should have been a second there. If you look at FOTMob's model in terms of their expected goals on target, just 0.14 for the shot, but the expected goals on target 0.62. So it was a good shot. I think maybe we just also need to credit Lund for a better save.
That's what I was going to say. I think it was a very solid save by Lund here. I mean, both of these plays, just incredible individual performance. The back heel from Savo to get this thing started. The awareness and the adjustment time, because I don't think you're anticipating you're going to receive a back heel pass from Savo here if you're BV. So to be able to kind of just like catch it with your foot, put this beautiful turn on the St. Louis defender and get off a really, really good look. Fantastic. And I'll take that all day, every day. Twice on Sundays, and good save by Lund here.
Yeah, and closing out the first half, you get a yellow card to Horn for knocking down Osman on a potential breakaway in the defensive half. And then right when you're about to get to stoppage time, you get a yellow card to Uzuni for a challenge on Durkin. And he got his money's worth on that challenge. Yeah. Slammed Durkin right in the face. And so I kind of where I was watching, we didn't get to watch together yesterday. I kind of threw my hands up when the card came out, and then they show the replay. I was like, oh, okay.
yeah. It was a little extra there. It was a little, like you said, got his money's worth.
Coming out of the half, no changes for either side in terms of the player personnel, but I think this is where you see a big change for Austin in terms of their aggression offensively. It kind of goes out the window here in the second half, and especially after the weather delay. 53rd minute, I think this is the most dangerous chance that St. Louis has on the afternoon. Betcher makes some inroads here as St. Louis starts to possess more of the ball at the beginning of the second half, and he drops it off to Hartel. And this curling shot, man, is not too dissimilar. I think the shot here is more impressive than Vasquez's was to end the first half. And the save by Bradley Scott Stuver is more impressive than what Lund did on that same shot. Like, I'm trying to find the shot here. Yeah, so 0.04 XG on this shot from where it was taken. .69. It's very nice. Doesn't go home for the St. Louis DP there, but the stretching, diving save by Brad. And he hasn't had a ton to do this season as a whole, especially compared to what we've seen in past years. But more often than not, again, like to what we deem slip-ups against Portland and against Colorado. But outside of those two fleeting moments, he has been every bit of the Bradley Scott Stuver that we've come to expect over his first 4 seasons with the team, and shows out again right here. When his number was called, he came up big.
Yep, and as we talked about during the offseason, looking at this team, trying to preview, trying to understand what it was going to look like, we mentioned and said that Brad wasn't going to get the volume that he had been getting these prior seasons, but he was going to have to come up in big moments in games like that. I'm pretty sure I said we're going to be in games that we're up 1-0 and we're going to need him to make a big save. And this is exactly what you get out of him. And I mean, just the consummate professional, true professional. Last year, obviously, we're singing his graces all the time because we can't even get a shot on target, but we're not losing 5-0 despite giving up 26 shots to the opposing team. But, you know, he's kind of quietly flying under the radar. He's never going to get the props, the credit he deserves from the national pundits. But we know what this man means to this team. Comes up huge in this big moment here for our team. And man, I just, you know, there's just not enough good things you can say about Bradley Scott Stuver.
Yeah, I agree. 59th minute here. Owen Wolff receives a ball from Sabo and drives into the final third with the 3 designated players along with him, and his pass out to Uzuni to his left is a bit heavy, but Myrto chases it down, and then he whirls back around and finds Owen basically right at the penalty spot. He makes a deft little touch to the feet of Bukhari, who bangs it home, but he was well offside. Flag goes up. You got to shoot it here. I totally get what he's doing. And if there's a little bit more space there, and Osman is allowed to be onside, because there just wasn't, their line was high enough and we were in close enough quarters where it just wasn't going to happen there. So, like, I respect the talent because the pass was boom, boom, right on point to the feet of Buka. Shoot it here, bro. Like, that could have been a goal for Owen.
Yeah, like you said, he must just not have seen that back line. Like, he's just an instinctual kind of play, get a great pass off to Buka. But absolutely, I mean, I think I texted in the group chat all caps, shoot that, you know, go ahead, get one. Like, he's been dropping dimes all year, been setting guys up, getting us game-winning assists and everything. Go ahead and get a goal. But this was, I think, probably the last and only kind of opportunity we had in this game, right? Unless I'm forgetting something. But I'm just staring at these second half stats from this game. They got 77% of the ball. They outshoot us 13-1 here in this second half. And this is really, you know, like we talked about, where it's like this game just is like 2 separate games. They come out of their shell, which we wanted them to do. And we got this opportunity where it was like, okay, if we get up 1-0 on these guys and we can eventually break them down, this was the opportunity here. Just didn't work out.
61st minute, you get your boy Pompeu in for Durkin after Durkin went down with a little bit of a knee issue. And you also get Watts in for Nielsen. 65th minute, chaotic chance for St. Louis here in front of net. The offside flag does go up after the play. But this was one of, like, I will give Pompeu some credit because like, I think you and I both respect that kid, like, in terms of, like, his standing on their roster, right? Like, he's not one of those special roster slots. He's not getting paid a ton, but, like, that guy comes in and changes games. Or if he starts, like, he's just a guy that you notice out there. He makes things happen. And the game kind of turns. I think I started to, I guess, tense up a little bit more as soon as he came in and started making things happen. So I thought we got a little bit lucky that the flag came up there because we started to just look a little bit shaky in that moment. And right after the flag goes up, Buka sits down, I guess cramping, because Nico does say after the match that he's fine. There's no injury. So I imagine it was just a cramp, and maybe, you know, didn't start last week. Maybe not, you know, I don't know. But we saw the cramp in the preseason. Now we get what I am chalking up to cramps here. And it's just nice because it's 2025 and we've got plenty of guys on the bench that are more than capable and not dropping our level on either side of the ball, maybe offensively, but you get what I'm saying.
Yes, absolutely. And I you know, as much as I dislike this team, they have a lot of players that I respect. Pompeo is definitely one of them. You see the activity level. He's their Biru. You know what I mean? Like, not to make the one-to-one comparison where it's just like they're both Brazilian. Like, he's their Biru. He's an active player. His work rate is through the roof, and he creates dangerous chances that are outside usually of the formational script that you want to be playing, because he's a soccer player and he goes out there, he plays, and like he creates a lot of good stuff. He gets in this game here and amps up this already kind of aggressive St. Louis side trying to get an equalizer.
Yeah, and to just like one more point on the Biru comparison, I like that one because he's also a guy that I think you really hate to play against. Similar to Biru. That's a good call by you. So Ilie does come in for Buka as the rain starts to fall. So there's like, if the switch wasn't flipped already, you bring Ilie in for Buka. And so like right after noticing it's raining on the broadcast, whistle blows for a delay. Little storm rolls through. I want to say it's about 40 minutes of a delay there. 3:45 Central Time is the restart. And when we get restarted here in the 68th minute, we get Ostrak and Klaus in for Morales and Betcher. So St. Louis raising their talent floor out there and getting one of their two designated players on the pitch who look. Joao Klaus, especially in 2023, very talented, was a menace in the Western Conference that season. He's been terrible on the pitch for his counting stats. Right now it's 22 straight appearances without a goal for St. Louis. He also looks terrible, dude. And like, I'm not trying to just kick this guy when he's fucking down, but look, man, it's not like I have the greatest head of hair either in the world, but like at some point it's time to come home. The guy, he's like, for those who don't know, and we have the Google technology here. We can double check what I've got, but from what I recollect, he's like 28 and he looks like he's going on 46. And just like, dude, the angle when he's about to sub in, I was just like, come on, Klaus, like you got to come on home, brother.
Look, man, this is the lowest hanging fruit, so I'm going to pass on it, okay? I'm too dignified to insult these St. Louis players.
Google confirms he's 28. This gray-blooded motherfucker, dude.
I mean, score a goal, dude.
Yeah.
You know, God, I hate this.
Oh, man. 78th minute here. St. Louis having all of the possession since the restart from the weather delay, but like really nothing too dangerous. And in this moment, Austin gets out on a little bit of a counter here. Ilie puts Galley through down the right side. And I kind of stood up watching by myself there because like I thought he had BV streaking down the middle and plays it a little bit too heavy and it goes out the far end line. But I think we can do better there. Like I think we can get like it was a 2-on-1.5 here, right? And in transition with Galley and BV, like I think those guys both together, more so on Johnny's side for the pass that he played or the timing therein. We could have done better there. Wemby thinks so too.
Yeah, you see a bit of a disconnect too. I think obviously the emphasis was being placed on be in our shell, be defensive, but there were a couple outlet opportunities where I thought we could have gotten BV particularly into some space, and this is the definitive one there that's like, definitely could have been a little bit better here.
Yeah. It's like to not get a shot off, and if we're not going to get a shot off, to not be able to hold on to possession and bleed some clock that way, because we just really couldn't do much of that here in the second half. Again, just coming back to, I think they can do better. The 80th minute, though, we do get a Brandon Vasquez yellow card for a challenge on Akil Watts near midfield, and then we get some changes for Austin. Julio comes in for Svatok on the back line, and you get Hader in for Danny. And then Obrian doesn't waste much time. He gets a yellow card 3 minutes later in the 84th. And you don't see, I think, on the broadcast what he's given the caution for. Yeah. I assume it's because he's upset on the no call in the previous play, which very much looked like a foul. So, like, if it was for dissent, I'm not mad at him because I thought the official was pretty bad yesterday, especially down the stretch here. I have some notes about it. Like, again, it wasn't game altering. It was just more frustrating than anything. And you see the frustration start to bleed through here from the Austin side, starting with Hader.
Yeah, Hader's got to stop hanging out with Diego. Look, we've seen this in the past with Hader, where he definitely loses his cool a little bit, and like when he doesn't get a foul call, he is willing to toe the line to get the yellow. And I've even seen him times where it's like, brother, you're about to get thrown out of this game. You need to calm down a little bit here. But again, a guy that brings in energy, so I like that he's got a little bit of that toughness, that spunk. Obviously, a very small, diminutive kind of player, so you got to have that edge to you. But he was fouled, and I think that his gripe was totally fine. I don't know. I didn't see the interaction with the ref, but he was definitely got fouled. One of the moments where I was like, "Hey!"
Yeah, yeah. The lovely Annabelle was making fun of me yesterday because I do that pretty often when I perceive a foul. Just hey,
AB making fun of you? No way.
85th minute, Horn goes down holding his quad. So you do see Timo Baumgartel come in, and I did see a couple of St. Louis fans just moaning and complaining. And understandably, like, we're down 5 minutes to go and we bring a center back in and we have an empty spot on the bench. And so, again, look, I feel your pain. You can go back to 2024, but look, man, rebuild that roster, I guess.
Look, man, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not as in touch with St. Louis, their roster, what guys they have available, who they feel really confident. But I just felt like Mellberg was just a little too full of himself with this lineup. Like, we knew they were going to be defensive, and we know that they're a defensive team. Nobody scored there. Nobody has won there yet this season. So, like, we understand they're a solid defensive team, and, like, they have good defensive players. But, like, I just think he got really cute with this lineup. And, like, when we break them down early, you get the goal in the first half. That kind of scraps your whole plan at this point, right? Because it's like, now you got to be more offensive. Now you got to come out of this shape. You only have a limited amount of substitutions and windows to where you can get more offensive guys in. But yeah, you bring Baumgartel in here, and he was all the way up in the front. He was playing striker at points in this game. I was just like, what is going on?
Yeah. And I was kind of surprised, to be honest. Again, like, you and I, not as in tune with St. Louis as we are with our own club, but I was kind of surprised to not see Klaus at half, because whether he's been playing well or not, it's like you only have so many attackers and you're down.
And Betcher was not good. Like, Betcher was poor last night. And I mean, also, let's say, like, because he hasn't been brought up yet, BHI. You know, he gets the band in this game. And again, just a fantastic. You bring your fucking work pail when you show up to the stadium. You get your sandwich at halftime that your wife made for you, your orange slices, what have you. He just came in and just continues to do his fucking job. He's a leader. He's a guy who talks to the guys on the back line, keeps us tight and cohesive. And we needed it down the stretch because they didn't really get a lot of, good looks, as we mentioned here, but like the scramble plays, the kind of bouncing balls in dangerous areas that can lead to the bullshit goals we've seen St. Louis score on us, the levels were high. Like I was definitely kind of on the edge of my seat here, like, guys, we got to close this out. And BHI and the squad was able to do so.
Yeah, it's 89th minute here. As things getting just a little bit hairy in front of net. Watching the replay, again, it's much easier. Like, you're just relaxed when you're watching a win back the next day. But, like, the defense pretty much had everything covered that St. Louis tried to do. And, like, I also wanted to bring up here, like, I know this is not breaking news and it will continue to happen, but we almost miss one of these St. Louis chances completely on the broadcast because they, again, go to a fucking replay or cut away to a coach or a close-up of a player. Well, the ball's in fucking play. And it's not just in play. It was in play on the corner. They played it short, and then they cut to a replay. I don't understand how Apple has so much fucking money and resources, and their directors and producers in the truck just seem to be fucking garbage. I mean, compared to any other professional sport you watch in this country in the broadcast, it's bad, man. And like those are simple things you can fix.
Yeah.
Like, look, man, I've been in those trucks. I've watched those broadcasts be directed. Like, you can do better, Apple. So like, it was just really frustrating.
I mean, they got the fucking head coach's name wrong a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
True.
They had Wolf on this, like the graphic, man. It's just insane. I don't know if this happens in Miami games. You know what I mean? They're like, there's probably got the big boys on those broadcasts, but Jesus Christ, dude. Like, I remember just being like, okay, what's happening? Like, this is a really dangerous possession right now. I don't want to miss getting scored on potentially.
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
That was also broadcast on Fox yesterday. I wonder if I don't think they used the same feed, so I wonder if that happened on Fox. I'll never know. I don't have the replay, but 90th minute, you get Rubio in for Uzuni, and this is where I just noted going into stoppage time that in the moment, the officiating felt horribly one-sided to me in the sense of like nothing glaring, but I felt like St. Louis was allowed to get away with all the little things, the pushes and pulls, where Austin got away with nothing down the stretch. And I thought that that inconsistency really bothered me. You know, and of course, while it's live, that combined with my own fan emotions, like it can bubble up, you know, that anger to the surface. But that was something that didn't change for me on the rewatch. Is like I thought the official was not. I thought that consistency was lacking in the last 10 to 15 minutes, and luckily it didn't cost us.
And I mean, honestly, it just kind of triggered a memory in my fortress of a brain here. From the first half, Sabo on the ball, getting pulled, getting tugged, no call. So he immediately follows it up with, okay, that's how we're gonna play, and gets called for a foul. So like that kind of started it this track record here with this ref for this course of this game, but didn't impact the result. So we'll take it.
Yeah, and this is the last note I had is the second minute of stoppage here. The ball in the Austin area gets deflected twice, but like both St. Louis attempts on that play were blocked by Austin, and the good guys end up with kind of like this half counter chance, but Vasquez gets taken down. It certainly looked like he got hit in his ankle or stepped on. And then Sabo, like to your point of what he did in the first half, he really goes after it here, just completely takes down. I forget who was on the ball for St. Louis in the moment, but to stop the break, got the yellow card, deserved at this point. But like the fact that Vasquez just got taken down and the way the bench reacted, and then you see as the yellow card is given, the camera zooms out and you can see Vasquez also yelling at the fourth official. Like, I don't know, man. I haven't seen our bench or Vasquez be that demonstrative with a missed call. And because that was right in front of the bench and the fourth official, again, shocker, I'm siding with our guys, but like I tend to side with like if all four coaches jump up at once, like usually that's a good indicator that you missed something.
Yeah, and like I brought up earlier with the disconnect, this is one of those plays right here where it's just like if something goes a little bit differently, we're out. You know, we're off to the races, and just a poor non-call here.
36% possession for Austin when all is said and done here, and 16 shots to 8 in favor of St. Louis, but just 2 on target for each team. And Austin created the only big chance of the match on Fatmam's model, and that was converted on the Uzuni goal. 8 corners to 3 for St. Louis, but it was 5-0 in the second half. And I think that just takes me back to those first half stats. You brought up the second half stats. You look in the first half, it's all Austin. 7 shots to 3, 2 on target to none. 46% possession for Austin in that first half, 0.65 XG to 0.12. And again, the corners, 3-3. And then you read off those second half numbers earlier, so we don't need to rehash that. But of the 16 St. Louis shots, Austin blocked 8 of them. And then on the XG for the full game on Fatmam's model, just 0.77 for Austin to 0.92 for St. Louis. The goals on target tells a better story, in my biased opinion, 1.53 for Austin to 0.88 for St. Louis. And again, for only having 2 shots on target apiece, it shows you how tough those saves by Lund and Stuver were on the Vasquez and Hartel shots. And then, again, what a quality chance it was for Myrto there in the middle of the box. So I also thought it was notable, as we can pull up, as we have been here on the YouTube, I also thought that it was notable that touches in the opposing box, with that, again, significant disparity in possession on the game, that touches in the opposing box, 28 for St. Louis, 26 for Austin. So 36% possession for Austin, but you still basically drew level with them on touches in the opponent's box. Like, that's still more encouraging numbers coming out of these games where we have low possession, where we're able to generate just as much, if not more, than the opponent while having so much less of the ball. You know, I'm excited to see still like when we can put this all together and have a little bit more of the ball and get back, 15, 20 shots like we've seen some of these games this season and in the past. Like, this team is still, I think, far from like what their final form will be, especially offensively. And that's just, again, it's very exciting. And like I said last week, it's fun to win.
Yeah, and to your point about the touches in the opposing box, like 21 of their 28, I believe you said, came in the second half. So it really highlights what we were able to do on the offensive side of the ball in the first half of this game, and that this game completely changes here in the second half. But I'm right there with you. We have not hit our ceiling. I know we're on a 3-game win streak right now, and we've been able to win games in these 1-0 type of fashion. We have not hit the offensive ceiling that this team is absolutely capable of, and I think that is also just going to come with some time here. I think Myrto and Buka need some more time. You saw yesterday a bit of a different style. We hinted at, Buka not really being that traditional wing until we got the ball. He starts shooting up the side here. You saw Myrto a bit more centralized. So shout out to the coaching staff as well. A great game plan for this game, and just another 3 points for this team. And we're fucking cooking with hot grease right now.
Yeah. And speaking of those two guys and their connection, right? Like, if you have not watched the Myrto Uzuni part of the post-game press conference yesterday, I would urge you to go watch the whole thing. But I've got a little clip here where he talks about the moment that led up to the goal. So let's listen in on Myrto here.
In that moment with Book, I was calling him all the time, pass me the ball, because 2 times before he shoot the ball. So I was telling him, like, pass me only slow the ball because I'm alone. Don't put your head down, because I'm alone, and Buka listen to me because I see better, the game. I read the game better because I see everything. So Buka passed me the ball. So I think this was a big win. To win 3 games in a row is not easy. I think we did great job, all the players, and I want to thank everyone for the support, for the team, and I'm very happy.
I mean, first of all, like, look, if when you first hear it, it's like, huh?
Yeah. I see better.
I see better. Like, look, because I'm the best. Like, being fair, and again, like, I've watched that multiple times. I think there is at least some of it that's a little bit lost in translation. I'm all for the confidence, right? Like, I don't think it's cocky at this point. Like, I think it's just confidence. The guy just came off scoring a World Cup qualifying goal, scored today. He knows his value. He knows how much the club paid to acquire him. He knows what he's done in La Liga 2, in La Liga. And again, that I think he addressed it as well in one of the Spanish answers, right? Kind of talking about the connection and his developing chemistry and relationship with Osman. I think in the Spanish answer, he said something about what Buka said back was like, okay, brother, like, I'll look for you next time.
Nice.
And so again, those are like the conversations that good teams have when you have a lot of very talented assets in any sport. If those guys can communicate and play better together, like, that's what you want to see. And so again, I think some of that is just a little bit lost in translation, where, like, if you take it at face value, it seems like kind of a wild thing to say about a teammate that you just met like 2 months ago. I don't personally take it that way. And it really made me smile, kind of that entire interaction where he's like, I told him, pass me the ball. And then he did, and we scored. And again, you see at the end and in other answers that he gives throughout that presser, like, he's very keen on letting us know, like, I'm out there playing for you. And I think he said more than once that, like, this is our job. Like, our job is to go out there and win for the people who are supporting us and supporting the club. And again, even if you know that that's the case, it's nice to hear that. And I love to hear it from the most expensive player in club history, because if Myrto has that attitude and that's what he's bringing and setting as an example for the rest of the franchise, you can't complain about that.
No, I mean, 2 things we know for sure about Myrto. Doesn't lack confidence, English is not his first language. So,
Yeah, sure, yeah.
put those two ingredients together. That's the type of response you get. So, but to your point, I love the confidence. You get the goal out of him. I know he's been itching to score for this team, and he says he wants to break records. And if this is how we're going to get it done, that's fine with me. But I didn't see the Buka response, but that makes me like it even more.
Yeah, and I think, like, if I was over there and trying to give a press conference in Albanian, or like if we were trying to do a podcast in Albanian and even had the elementary parts of the language down, us trying to talk shit on like Houston fans, like we would say something that probably comes off a little bit different than what we meant. So again, you can find those on the club's website. They've got those post-game pressers up there if you want to see the rest of what Myrto said. Couple stats first from the club from yesterday. Osman recorded, of course, the match-winning assist. Game-high 3 dribbles, successful dribbles, rather. Won both of his attempted tackles and won 7 duels. Then Brendan Heinzike made a game-high 12 clearances and won all 7 of his duels in the shutout victory. And Myrto's goal snapped a 330-minute home shutout streak for St. Louis City. Of course, we became the first visiting team to score and win at Energizer Park this season. And in addition to the match-winning goal, Myrto also created 2 chances and completed all 14 of his attempted passes on Sunday. And that's why you see this morning MLS naming both Brendan Heinzike, wearing the armband yesterday, and the goal scorer Myrto Uzuni to the team of the match day. You don't see their pictures up there because they got put on the team of the match day bench. But counts nonetheless. So going on 3 straight weeks with at least one representative of the team on the team of the match day, and that's always a good thing.
With at least one representative on the team who didn't score a goal.
Yeah,
right?
Good
It's
call.
Owen,
Yeah,
Johnny, and now BHI, and just a fantastic showing for these guys. Buka, who we've been critical of at times with his decision-making, looked very, very solid yesterday, gets that game-winning assist. Love that for him. Hopefully a bit of a confidence builder here as we move into April.
Yeah, and as we look through some of the MLS stat charts there from the Blue Sky account, you look at the goals added ratings from ASA. Again, just like with XG and shots or anything that, field tilt, all of this stuff, it's a small piece to the puzzle. But Sabovic leading the team in goals added, but like right there with him at the 68 mark, Danny Pereira. So again, like I think that's what kind of this like confirmed my prior expectation of like Danny is playing very effectively the last 2 weeks. It's just not flashy, and we don't necessarily need flashy out of Danny. You need solid. Yep. And again, in this particular metric for this particular game, both Sabo and Danny graded out really well. The best on the team.
Yep, and guys are starting to settle into their role. And like you said, Danny understanding that we don't need flashy kind of plays out of him, just solid work. We have the guys who can go do the sexy stuff with Myrto, with Buka, with BV and everything like that. So settling into our roles a bit more. We're adaptable. We're adjustable. We've played a bunch of different games. And I think that you look at the way this team has been playing over the course of this 3-game win streak, which has been absolutely fantastic. We've found ways to win games in different ways. We found ourselves in situations that are different. Like we're playing LAFC, we're heavy double. We're giving them the ball. We're hitting them direct in the counterattack. You get into that San Diego game, somewhat of the same approach, and now you see this game where like this game just gets completely flipped on its head in the second half, and we're still able to adapt and adjust. So another solid performance all around by everyone. Nobody stuck out to me as really poor last night.
Yeah, I don't think I have much else to add there in terms of overall stats for the team here, league-wide. So we are just over, I think, 7.2 XG total on the season through 6 matches on FOTMob's model. So again, certainly not lighting the world on fire, but that is at the top end of the bottom third of the league. That's 20th in MLS. But then you go through some of these other stats, especially defensively, it's going to look good. Of course, second in MLS in clean sheets with 3. Of course, you're tied with a couple other clubs there. Second in the league in goals conceded per game, just a half goal conceded per game through 6 matches. Offensively, 8th highest accurate crosses per match. So again, not like the volume of crosses is not leading the league, but when they are lumping those balls in, they're usually getting good stuff, getting some chances, getting shots off of them, and currently third in MLS in yellow cards with 17. That's one off the pace. Two teams tied for first with 18 yellow cards. So certainly feisty here through the early parts of the season, and best in MLS, tops in the league in expected goals against with just 4.7 XG against through 6 matches. So again, like, if this is like we said, the final form earlier of the offense, that we're not there yet, this could be the final form of the defense, and we'd probably be pretty darn good.
Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't even had one of those just sheer lucky kind of bullshit goals that we will eventually get. I know you didn't bring this up while we were recording, but we did discuss it before we jumped on here. What Coach Nico said about, like, we could score a shitload of goals or we can win fucking games. And I want to win. I want to win games. Would it be great to be blowing teams out, have that 5-goal game that we potentially could have had versus San Diego and get the 3 points? Of course. But I'm always going to take the 3 points over making it look real sexy and lighten up a scoreboard. So we're doing what we need to do. We have not hit our ceiling yet. We're going to get better on the offensive side of the ball. I guarantee it. We just have too much talent not to. It's simply too good.
Yeah, no, jokes aside, I agree. It's the first 3-game win streak for the club since July of 2022. Twice in that 2022 season prior to July, the club reeled off 4-game win streaks. But outside of those 2 4-gamers in the middle of that year, Austin has never had a 3-game win streak. So, like, again, it's a long time coming. And now you've got a chance to match the club's longest winning streak next weekend, and then you get that one, and maybe you're setting a new record, but you take it one game at a time. And that's what I'm trying to do with my fan emotions, as tough as it is for you and I to stay, I don't know, humble, like stay even keeled. Because
I mean, I just pulled the schedule up. You know what I mean? Like, I literally just pulled it up. Yeah, Portland at home.
Yep.
You have Vancouver on the road. Tough place to play. Good team.
Vancouver coming off CONCACAF, though. They play this week and next week. And, like, so what we want, we want them to have a good first leg so they go for it in the second leg. Because they showed it they drew their first leg last round and then, like, didn't throw in the towel because they won down in Mexico, but, like, rotated White out and put their backup keeper in, still won. So, and then Gald, I don't think will be back for that one too. So, like, it's going to be a shorthanded Vancouver team no matter what. And then you get the Galaxy at home, who are ass this year too, even though Paintsill is working his way back into the mix. And then you get the team that is second bottom in the Western Conference table to close out the month at their place out there in nasty Houston. So, like, again, dude, even if you win 2 of these 4 April matches, to be through April and be on what would be 18 points then, like, you would take that at the beginning of the year. And, like, I think we would take a few points less than that at the beginning of the year too. Like,
for sure, would at least be understanding of a few points less in this situation. But yeah, not to get too far ahead of ourselves. But these next 4 games,
but we're gonna
have set us we have our sights on them. But again, Portland first, handle business there. Let's get to the AFC boys.
Yeah, and again, like, we'll preview the Portland match in depth, of course. Like, they're gonna have more at their disposal, more talent at their disposal than they did when we saw them about a month ago. And again, like, thinking about who we've played and trying to keep that even keel. Like, San Diego was shorthanded. That St. Louis team is way different from what we're gonna see from them on the return leg later this season. But again, you can only play who's in front of you, and Austin is taking care of business. And Austin, not full strength either. Certainly not last week. It's still missing Dessler. So yeah, man. Again,
one of the guys we were talking about at the early part of the season was looking like one of our 2 best performers, him and Owen.
Yeah.
You know, Dessler's a huge component, and Johnny's been great. Johnny's been absolutely fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
But to be able to really unlock Johnny is to be able to move him around where we want. Game script type of situation, get him in the game, get him against some more tired legs. So we're not full strength either, but
and just Johnny running at you, fresh legs, 20-25 minutes. Like, yeah, man. So again, we can wrap this up. We'll talk Portland on Thursday's episode here again, and that'll be a quick turnaround. We'll try to get that one out as early as we can on Thursday because you turn around. It's a Saturday game, so back to a normal schedule in terms of the days there. But 6:45 kick coming this weekend. Kind of the weird schedule quirks continue. Anything else for you on this one?
Oh, no, sir. It just feels damn good.
Come on down to Farmer Field where the champions play. Get ready for the game. It's last business day.
Last business day on episode 211 of the North End podcast. And again, did the double out there, double header at Energizer Park with the weather delay in the first team's match. This one didn't kick off until I think it was 5:30 Central, but kind of like, not necessarily surprises, but you look at this lineup when it comes out. Backline, Alstrip in net, Bonachera, Van Ryn, Gomez, and Riley Thomas off the first team bench and into the lineup here for the second team. So was CJ Fodre, who's up top with Jimmy and Peter Grogan. And then the midfield also kind of, not an alarm bell, but I find it interesting that the midfield was Adrian Gonzalez, Jorge Alistue back in there off injury, so that's great to see. And then Irvin Torres. So you got Micah Burton on the bench, and this was a short bench for the second team because they flew out on the private plane with the first team this weekend. And didn't take any of the academy guys with them. So the bench was just Micah, Deanda, Chesla, Cervantes, Abarca, and Danchutu, old Vlad there. So you only had 5 field players on the bench. And the fact that Micah was one of them, again, our captain for the first team was benched yesterday, right?
Yeah.
This could have very much been a form thing. He could have tweaked his ankle. Who knows, right? But the fact that he wasn't in the lineup, I felt was just a little bit notable. You want to see your first team guys in there more often than not.
Yeah, I agree. It also could just be that Alistue is very talented. We saw him in limited action in that first game. You get the goal, you get the assist out of him. So, a little bit of a healthy competition could potentially be brewing here, but I'm not going to read too much into this until we see some more evidence that maybe the preferred player here is Alistue.
Yeah, I think with if Jorge, again, it's a very small sample size, but I've been impressed enough with him where if he got a green card, I wouldn't put it past Roto to give him one of those 5 open supplemental slots that we have, but maybe getting ahead of myself here. It is still March after all. So in this one, 7th minute, you get the first yellow card of the match to Ryan Dugan from St. Louis. And then in the 16th minute, Austin gets a breakaway. CJ on his horse here. Great carry by him. Basically, he went 75 yards, it felt like. And then he puts it, great pass too, right into Grogan, who gets denied by the keeper, I want to say twice on the rebound as well. So not able to find the back of the net there. And then Grogan does get a yellow card in the 29th minute for a foul from behind after losing possession. 37th minute, getting closer to halftime. Jimmy loses his defender on the right side of the area, so business as usual there. Whips a ball in that goes across the face of net, goes past Grogan, and bounces right to Irvin, who nods it down into the ground. But I think just kind of some unfortunate luck for Irvin there, because I thought the execution, getting that header down into the ground is what, these guys are taught to do, but it bounces up and the keeper was able to get a touch to it. But just deflects it high up into the air, and it falls kind of right to CJ, and his header goes over the bar. That was 8-9 yards out, though. So it wasn't the easiest effort there. And moments later, St. Louis comes back down the opposite side on the left, fires a cross in that's headed by Emil Jaskalainen. And I don't know if that rings a bell for you or any of our listeners, but that was one of the few prospects we had our eyes on in the Super Draft last year, Emil Jaskalainen. I want to say he was Duke. I think he was a Blue Devil. I can double check that after the episode, but he was a nuisance on the night. And luckily here, that one is put off the post and back out into the field of play. Both teams generating some good chances in the first half, but neither could finish any of them off. No changes at the half. Coming out of the half, though, in the 47th, Alstrip plays a ball long from his own penalty area that Jimmy's able to run onto behind everything and gets in on the keeper, but can't get it past the St. Louis goalkeeper. And then that ball bounces back out off of their goaltender, and Jimmy runs it down. For a second, I thought we were going to get that connection, flips it up to that back left post. CJ's running onto it. It just floats a little bit wide. CJ's able to keep that one in and tries to put it back across the face of net, but their goalkeeper was able to scoop that one up. But again, seeing those two guys out there, they were certainly looking for each other on the night.
I mean, when we're full strength with this FCito team, we have elite firepower on either side of the pitch for that level with Jimmy and CJ. And, goals are fickle. They come and they go depending on a lot of different factors here. But when you consistently have the pressure that this team is going to have throughout this entire season here for FCito, it's something that I'm excited about.
Yeah, for sure. You do get 3 of those 5 field players subbed in here. In the 61st, you get Micah and Diego Abarca in for CJ and Peter Grogan. And then in the 75th, you get Vlad Danchutu in for Jimmy. And then in the 80th, off a corner, Nico Van Ryn gets ahead to it, and it floats towards the back post, and their keeper diving punch to preserve the stalemate here. Again, I give that keeper credit for that and some of the other saves he made on the night. Both he and Alstrup, I thought, were very, very solid. 89th minute, you get Irvin with a curling shot that goes just wide right from outside of the box. And we end up going to penalties with the 0-0 scoreline in regulation. On their first 2, St. Louis's their first 2 penalty attempts, Marcus guessed right both times, just not able to keep it out of the back of the net. First 3 rounds, Jorge, Ruben, and Adrian score all of their pens. So we're 3-3 going into round 4. Then Alstrup denies who else but McSorley, Brendan McSorley, the guy that I hate the most on this team. And so, oh man, was I fucking pumped when he did that, thinking, oh, we're going to get this dub, the extra point, because we denied McSorley from the spot. And then Micah skies it. I mean, this one was just a complete mishit up into the middle of their supporters section there. And ultimately in round 6, Riley Thomas gets his effort stopped by the St. Louis keeper. So coming home with just a point in the PK loss, and somewhere Roto stewing that we even have to do these penalties because he is not a fan of them. But man, just from elation to disappointment in the blink of an eye. And again, these guys will get plenty more chances, I think, at these PK shootouts throughout the season. And one of my big takeaways from watching that match and the ensuing shootout, Marcus Alstrup has played very well to begin the season. Clean sheet on the day, gets a stop in the PK shootout, and guessed the correct direction multiple times in that shootout. So you only come home with the point, but I thought there were some positives for the team. A team that was shorthanded personnel-wise on the road.
Yeah, shorthanded. Also, CJ, that must have been odd getting ready for the first game and then having to double back and play this game. Not making an excuse here, probably thought it was a little odd. Look, St. Louis, the St. Louis 2 team sits at the top of the table. I know they got a couple games in hand on a few teams. They got a game in hand on us, but 6-0 goal differential. This is a quality team. You know what I mean? And I'm happy and proud of the showing that we had here on the road. You come home with a point. Could have been more, but that's okay. We'll see him again.
Yeah, so another bye week here for FCito, if I'm not mistaken, and their next match will be Friday, April 11th. That should be at Parmer Field, another one of those 5:30 kicks, but Copita Tejas match there with the defending league champions. So extra time for those guys to get healthy, continue to build chemistry with all the new pieces they have, and we'll preview that North Texas match in the midweek episode next week. Closing it out here, with an Academy recap. Shout out to the club once again for putting one of these out. These are fantastic, especially because it was a Texas Derby. Various age groups played against both FC Dallas and Houston Dynamo. So the U18s, 2-1 victory over the Orange team. Gritty performance according to the team, solid defensive effort, and clinical finishing. And that one was on the road. Then you look at the U16s, 4-0 victory over Houston. Just a complete domination, teardown of the U16 Dynamo. So you love to see the clean sheet there. Then the young boys taking on Dallas U14s, drop that match 3-1. So, fought hard. You live to battle with Dallas another day. And the U13s close it out 3-1 victory. So overall, going up against our Texas rivals at the academy level, we'll take a 3-1 weekend anytime.
Absolutely.
All righty. Anything else for you here before we shut it down?
No, that was great.
Well, I'm excited to preview the Portland match on Thursday's episode. I'm also excited for the nonsense E because, look, if there's anybody out there that's been tailing these picks, accept tips, Venmo, PayPal, Zelle,
beers at the stadium,
lighters at Copperhead. That's a deep cut that about 6 people in the world get, but I guarantee you that's a fantastic reference. Crushing the picks. So all is well. Win streaks, profit streaks. Everything's great here in the North, and we hope it's great for you here to begin your week. Appreciate you tuning in, sticking with us here on episode 211 of the North End Podcast. We'll be back on Thursday previewing that Portland match and talking about everything else that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. Enjoy the beginning of your week, everybody. You know we'll do the same. We'll see you back here on Thursday. Till then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Victory song.
Welcome to the North End where the passion's running high. We're here to talk football, Austin FC, alright. ZG and E will take you on this ride. Week by week, side by side. It's action 1, 2, 3. We're the rowdiest in town. The Pirates, Damon, Uncle Dave, and Big Fudge all around. We sing our songs, we chant as one. Through thick and thin, the match day's just begun. In the North End, we stand together. Through every game, through any weather. From the first whistle to the final blow. The North End will never let go. Under the lights of Q2, our home, our sacred ground. In green and black, we fight, our voices loud and proud. Trio sees magic, Bacardi speed, Stuva saving grace. With every goal we score, the lights turn verde, it's our place. So knows the mastermind, building our dream. Dan rules everything around me, as he strengthens our team. Let Rodo cook, he's got the perfect recipe. Austin FC, our heart and soul forever will. In the North End, we stand together. Through every game, through any weather. From the first whistle to the final blow. The North End will never let go.
The MLS season is here. If you want to make some picks on your favorite players in sports, check out Underdog Fantasy's Pick'em game. You choose higher or lower on between 2 to 8 players, and you can win up to 1,000 times your entry. Underdog is available in 33 states, including right here in Texas. To sign up, click the link in the description of this video and use promo code NORTHEND at sign up, and you'll get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick to get you started. So join the millions of fans who have won billions on Underdog.